Hi and welcome back to the 13-storey treehouse activity. Today we're going to be looking at measuring angles, and we're going to be using one of these things called a protractor. As usual, we're going to start by watching a clip that explains how you use a protractor to measure angles.
You can use a protractor to measure angles. This full circle protractor is 360 degrees. A standard protractor is half a circle. There are two sets of numbers. The red counts one direction and the blue counts the other. So it is 180 degrees. There are 90 degrees in a square corner and 45 degrees in half a square corner. Let's take a look at this angle. We can use a protractor to measure this angle. First, put the vertex on the center. We're trying to find out how many degrees fall between the two arms of the angle, which we do by finding the difference. We can find the correct measurement of the angle as long as we use the numbers of the same color. One arm of the angle points at the 0 on the right, which is blue, so we can look at the blue number starting at 0. The other arm of the angle points at the blue 40. To find how many degrees are between the arms, let's find the difference. 40 minus 0 is equal to 40. This angle is 40 degrees. 40 degrees makes sense since this angle is acute, or less than 90 degrees. The other number this arm is pointing to is 140. 140 degrees would not make sense since this angle is acute. Let's look at another angle. One arm of the angle points at the 0 on the left, so we can look at the red numbers starting at 0. The other arm of the angle points at 120. To find how many degrees are between the arms, let's find the difference. 120 minus 0 is equal to 120. This angle is 120 degrees. 120 degrees makes sense since this angle is obtuse, or greater than 90 degrees. The other number this arm is pointing to is 60 degrees. 60 degrees would not make sense since this angle is obtuse. Sometimes neither arm points to 0. For example, look at this angle. Both numbers we look at need to be the same color. Let's look at the blue set. One arrow points to 50 degrees and the other points at 130. Because neither arm of the angle points to 0, we can do 130 minus 50, which is equal to 80. It is 80 degrees from one end of the angle to the other. We can use the red numbers to see if we get the same measurement. One arm points to 130 and the other points to 50. We can subtract to find the difference. 130 minus 50 is equal to 80. It is still 80 degrees from one end of the angle to the other. We can find the correct measurement of the angle as long as we use the numbers of the same color. In this lesson, you learned to measure angles using a protractor. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so we're going to measure some angles ourselves. These are the things that you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need a protractor. You're also going to need Ava's 13-storey treehouse printout. You'll also need this worksheet here and a pencil. And if you don't have an eraser at the end of it, then you might want an eraser as well. So I'm going to start by showing you how to measure some of the angles on Ava's 13-storey house. We're going to start with A. Okay, so the red angle here. When you're doing this, you need to place the protractor over the angle, making sure that the center point there is over the vertices of the angles. So we're going to measure from here, 0, to the other arm, which is here. So the distance between these two arms. This one here is exactly halfway between 50 and 60. So on your worksheet, you would write 55 degrees next to the A. Next you would do B, and then C and D and so on. But I'm just going to skip that one. I'm going to skip B so we can have a look at C. Now C, the angle here in the blue, you can tell that this is a right angle because instead of having a curve marking the angle like that, it actually has a square, which would make it a right angle, which means it would be exactly 90 degrees. And here's proof. Here is the protractor, and it is showing 90 degrees between 0 and 90. So on your worksheet, you would write next to C, 90 degrees. Now we're going to look at the angle G. G is an obtuse angle, so we already know that that's going to be greater than 90 degrees. Let's have a look at it with the protractor on it. So once we've placed the protractor onto the angle, we start at the 0, which is here, and follow it around until we get to the other arm. Now when we look at that, it is probably at 114 degrees, I would say. Sometimes it's hard to get an exact amount. So next to the G, I would write 114 degrees. Now the last angle I want to show you is the angle K. Now notice that the angle is flipped. It's on the other side. So when you're measuring it, you will need to make sure that you use the right measurements. So we start at the 0. Instead of starting at this 0 this time, we actually start over here because that's where the line is. It's on this one here, and we're going to measure it across to this arm. And the measurement we've got here, if we draw a line from that line up to here, I would say that that's just below the 60, so I would say something like 58 or 59 degrees. And so next to the K in your worksheet, you would write 58 degrees or 59 degrees, depending on what you think it is. Sometimes with these protractors, it's really hard to get a precise measurement. So if it's within a few degrees, then we'll all be happy with that. So that's it for today. All the best with your measuring. And remember, once you're finished, you might like to fill in Ava's 13-storey house with some of your own little pictures and designs to finish it off. Have fun.